Here we go. Hi everyone, Gareth Presch, founder of the World Health Innovation Summit. Delighted to welcome you to our Health Innovators Show, episode 4. I'm talking to John Murphy from BioStream. Hi John, it's a pleasure to see you again. Please tell people, give people a short bio, and let's get into this conversation about BioStream.
Sure. Thanks, Gareth, and thanks for the opportunity here. I'm kind of a little bit new to the med tech space, but we've got some pretty exciting technology that I think is going to help a lot of folks, and that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Maybe just give us a little bit of your background, John.
Sure. So I've been 30 some years in the high tech space, a lot in the software. And of course, when the pandemic hit, a lot of things changed for a lot of folks, including me. And so we did a little bit of a readjust and got into the health sector.
Excellent. So, look, during the Health Innovators Show, we have about 7 sort of topical questions that we have. And first off, we want to just start with the personal journey and your inspiration. So, like, what inspired you, to pursue a career in innovation, particularly in the health sector? And then could you share like a defining moment which kind of solidified your commitment to BioStream?
Yeah, sure. So I was running an AI company, and then the pandemic hit, and that just changed everything. And obviously, some of my contracts actually got canceled for the company that I was running, and then worse than that, I actually had to just send all my staff home, and we weren't sick. And I was looking around the world and the country, and everyone was doing this. And really the reason was because we couldn't test at the office. And I just thought, wow, that's just borderline crazy. And I had been working on projects with General Mills and Amgen and Canon. I've been developing sensors. So I had just enough faith and maybe cockiness to believe that I could actually build a world-class point-of-care system that would address the problem of not having to line up at these centralized labs.
Fantastic. I mean, what a way to kind of start like COVID, and then, pop outcomes and innovation. I really love it. Tell us a little bit about the innovation, like what sort of problem, you kind of touched on it there, the diagnostics, having it at the office. Like, what are you aiming to solve here? How do you identify the need? What are you improving here compared to the current approach?
Yeah. So one of the big problems that we just was right in all of our faces is, we didn't have the ability to test accurately. I mean, like a lab quality test in our hands. And I'll just hold up, so what we did is we developed and designed a little portable device. Sorry, that's a little, might be jumping around on you a little bit. But the whole idea is it just plugs into a phone, and then, you're putting your sample, like a drop of blood or a urine, onto a disposable, and that goes into the device, and then you get test results in about 5 minutes. And so the whole idea is it has to be as accurate as a lab test. And because we've all kind of had some experience perhaps with lateral flow and even with some of the COVID testing. And yeah, there's results, but maybe you don't quite trust them, or maybe they're not quite good enough. So why can't we have lab quality tests in our hands on our phones?
Yeah, this is exactly what our sort of mission is with the World Health Innovation Summit. We want to give people the tools to manage their own health and well-being. So it's a perfect fit. Just, you've touched on sort of the impact and the outcomes. What impact do you envisage your innovation having on communities, also global health, and like, how are you going to measure that success and effectiveness?
Yeah. So first, to have impact, we the way we're looking at it is we got to get out to millions of people. That's just, kind of the first thing. And we got to be able to get them something that's meaningful immediately, which is kind of results. Our view of that is results in 5 minutes. But the impact is really to enable a rapid treatment, because the reason that you test is to be able to do something about it. As long as you know what's maybe wrong with you, or what some of the what the symptoms are and what to do about it. So while we're not the treatment, we are the ability to be able to understand what's wrong and take an immediate action. And that's kind of that to me is kind of the first kind of area of impact, because it just really affects folks individually right in the moment. But that impact in the outcomes is only really possible if we can get access. And when we think about access and affecting outcomes, what I'm talking about is you have to have access to different types of tests. So you might care about diabetes, the next person cares about cardio stuff, maybe it's neurological testing. Those tests have to be available to you. So we've built in an environment to enable that. And then, you have to be able to get your hands on it. So there's got to be distribution. And so we kind of set this up so that folks can get this online, and we're motivating distributors to handle it. And then kind of the third thing is, this whole thing is just, if it's not affordable, then it just doesn't matter anyway. So make it work on the phone, and make the reader and the consumables kind of cheap enough that everybody can afford to use it and participate and get the value out of it.
Yeah, it's brilliant innovation. I really like it. And just, let's get an insight into the sort of challenges, learning experiences that you've had. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced while developing the innovation? How have you overcome them? What are the lessons that you would like to share from the journey? And, for aspiring innovators who are just looking here, what sort of tips would you give them? What sort of what sort of knowledge would you share with them?
Yeah. So two of the kind of, I guess, challenges is, one of them was, it actually just came down to trust of the system. We had to make sure that people were really comfortable with the data, that they own the data, it's theirs, and that they can, it's not going to be shared unless they choose to share it. Right. And then also but how do we do that in a way that we could also leverage kind of a community aggregated anonymized data, so that governments and stuff could use it to be able to detect trends in an outbreak and things like that. So that was one of the things that is really not just the technology, it was the, how do you actually work with the data and the folks that are affected by that. And then the other thing is just, how do we actually get the sensitivity of a test? It's got to be as good as a lab quality test. Like there's ELISAs, there's PCR, there's mass spec. How do we, can we compare with that at a low cost that you can run on your phone? And kind of the magic piece that happened for us was these little transistors we invented or developed. And, transistors have helped so many things, computers, radios, and now they're actually coming to the rescue on point of care. So we thought that was pretty interesting from an innovation perspective.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yep.
And no, it's brilliant. It's really great to see how you're bringing, your knowledge of technology and then applying it to patient care. Ultimately, you'll improve outcomes. You'll also improve people's quality of life. So it's overall, giving people the tools to manage their own health and well-being at home. I mean, it's just fantastic, because you're also going to take pressure off the system as well. And then people can take the steps to manage their own health and well-being, which is great. I want to come on to sustainability and future plans. How does your innovation align to the Sustainable Development Goals? We've got SDG 3, good health and well-being. And then just what are your plans for scaling this innovation? And how do you see yourself evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah. So when we look at sustainability, I look at it from a couple, or the Sustainable Development Goals. I look at it from a couple perspectives. One of them is, there's a variety of pathogens, of conditions, of health conditions, and they vary just around the world. So we wanted to make sure that the platform could, actually address, proteins, hormones, metabolites, different biomarkers that actually make a difference for different folks in different areas. And then the other kind of fundamental aspect that I see of Sustainable Development Goals are really empowering people to take control of their own health. And so that's where we really just focused, actually years of development here to make sure that we could apply this and use this through your cell phone, right? And it was really a low cost, and because that's actually what empowers people to take control and to actually start focusing on on health themselves and not maybe relying on others. That doesn't mean don't rely on your doctor. It's just that's an underlying goal that we've
absolutely
got.
It goes hand in hand, and it's sort of like your future plans in terms of scaling. How do you see that evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah. So for scaling, what we're really talking about here is how do we get this out to everyone in a low cost way? So that was one thing, but I got to tell you, when I first kind of thought about the scaling aspect of this, I thought about you, Gareth, and I'll tell you why. Because a couple of years ago, you told us to build out a model, like a business model that actually supported a circular economy. And I had to give that a lot of thought. And over the years, the last couple of years, I have. So, we're talking about how do we actually engage the local economy? And that's in two ways. One of them is, what we do is when it comes to manufacturing, we've got to be able to manufacture millions of these, biosensors and the consumables. So we do that with robotics that can actually be those robotic systems can be shipped to different parts of the world for scalable manufacturing. And then the other thing is, this only works if you've got a lot of different tests that work for different folks. So we actually built out part of our tool set, and we give the ability to every university around the world and every different commercialization partner that wants to build their own test, and they can have the IP, they can put their name on it, they can price it. And so what that does is it allows this to scale in a way that is way beyond us kind of being the bottleneck on dribbling out the next test. And so that kind of allows us to scale in a way that is really amazing, because it's not just us holding things up. We're empowering partners globally.
Well, that sort of brings us into the next question. Sort of next focal point is like collaboration, partnerships. So how important have partnerships been in your innovations development? And then are there any key collaborators you'd like to mention? What role do you think cross-sector collaboration plays in driving meaningful innovation? Because I think that's critical here. Having different sectors intertwine is critical.
Yeah. And so I just mentioned World Health Innovation Summit as a collaborator, which is great. But locally, I found it's really important. And even people around the world, they look at us and say, from a local perspective, how much support do you have? And so we're collaborating with our health authority here in Canada, in Alberta, and they serve 5 million people working up different kinds of biomarkers. And this is just important because it shows people around the world that the technology is really real, that the things are working, and then they help us through the Health Canada and FDA process, which is another kind of a credibility builder on the whole thing. And that's important because folks don't know who we are.
No, it's vital.
Yeah, and then I guess to answer your question just about the other collaboration and innovation and kind of where that fits and the cross-sector aspect. I mean, that has got to do with, cross-sector internally, like we got chemistry, biology, electronics, software, all mashed together to kind of make that work. But, I think meaningful collaboration really comes when we're engaging with these different universities, researchers, because they are so knowledgeable about different biomarkers for oncology, for, like I said, diabetes, urinary tract infections. We're working with folks with all kinds of knowledge on these biomarkers. And if we can put them on a platform, that's what's going to help people. And so I just think that being able to run cross-sector, I mean, we're also talking to some organizations that want to talk about vets and problems that are happening within animals. So there is really a cross-sector element, and we really embrace that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, you can apply this to the environmental challenges that we face.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got folks doing soil testing, looking for chloride in soil, and that's about as far from health as you can kind of get.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, some of the technology can just apply, and if we can solve problems, then so much the better.
Absolutely. So finally, what advice do you have for aspiring innovators? There's going to be a lot of people watching this, pharmacists, allied health professionals, doctors, a variety of individuals here. What sort of advice would you give to sort of, someone who wants to start in the field of health innovation? How can young innovators stay resilient and motivated? It's an up and down journey. So what would be your advice?
That's a good question. So, Gareth, one of the things that I find just talking to people around the world is they're all pretty knowledgeable in certain sectors. So, if you're a startup, you might really be coming from a place where you have knowledge around a particular sector, a particular and maybe a biomarker or some type of test that would really help. That's the same if you're a doctor or a pharmacist. You're seeing things in your world that would just be really good. Why don't we just have a low cost, cheap test sort of thing? And when people are kind of looking at that, they question themselves as they start up. They're like, do I really have the competency? Do I have all the knowledge? Because I would just say that, if you focus on a specific example, then you do have the competency, because you're probably some of the best in the world at that specific area, and embrace that, right? Just believe in yourself. And believe me, this is going to be hard, because you're going to be asked to do things. If you're developing a new test, that's pretty common here. You're going to be asked to do things without enough funding, without enough staff, and you're going to be asked to produce data without having been given the resources to kind of get all that done. And I'm just saying, it's tough. It really is, but it's worthy, right? It's worth your time. And if you focus, I think you can be some of the best in the world. I mean, just personally, what we try to do is be the best platform for, these kinds of sensors in the world. And we focus on that, and then kind of other folks and other collaborators will help fill out the other gaps. So lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. Great advice. I mean, absolutely. Final thing, John, where can people find out more?
Okay, right at bio-stream.ca. That's our core website. We've got resources on there. We've got additional contact information there. So it's really at bio-stream.ca. Okay,
fantastic. Look, John, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I hope everyone who's watched this has enjoyed the content. You can find me next. Our next episode is episode 5. It's Her Spirit. Join me on the 13th of December. John, it's been a pleasure speaking to yourself. And look, I'm very excited to work with BioStream. We're excited to be able to work with you guys and to be able to scale BioStream around the world. So watch this space. From myself and John, thanks to everyone who's joined us, and we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Gareth.